Hey everyone, welcome back to Fake Nerds. I'm your host, Brian. So, Kickstarters and games can be a tricky marriage, right? I think we all know games like Star Citizen, who's kickstarted and crowdfunded so much money, and we still don't have an official release of that. But even when, Kickstarters seem to be fairly successful, it doesn't mean that you're going to actually get a game out of that. And that's the story that we are covering here. This is from GameSpot and Eddie McCouch, who says, game that raised $300,000 on Kickstarter won't be released as studio shuts down. The developer behind the partially community-funded PC game Alzura Radiant Echoes has announced it's shutting down, and the game won't be released after the team raised more than $300,000 to make it happen. Studio Camellia, which successfully raised €294,428, or roughly $339,000 from more than 5,000 people to fund the game via Kickstarter, made the announcement in a statement. He said, quote, "We can only imagine your disappointment upon reading this," the studio said. Studio Camellia will not refund money to people who contributed to the Kickstarter. Neither the studio nor the Kickstarter is able to refund your contributions to the project, and we are truly sorry for that. It said, adding, the Kickstarter campaign are inherently risky and are advertised as such. Kickstarter says people who pledge funds to the project should know beforehand that Kickstarter is not a store and we do not issue refunds. When you back a project, you're supporting the creator's right to try to make something new and agreeing to go along for the ride. What happened? The team wrote in a statement that it wanted to build a JRPG with a, quote, fresh perspective and one that was influenced by games like Final Fantasy and Golden Sun. The company was funded in part by Kickstarter campaign, along with money from staffers' own personal savings, along with business angels, bankers, and institutions. The game was also accepted into Microsoft's Developer Acceleration Program. However, all of this only covered half of what the studio Camellia said it needed to produce Alzura, so it decided to run a Kickstarter campaign to demonstrate to potential investors Alzura had legs. The team then sought funding from an industry partner, but it was ultimately unable to secure one. The investors are now operating in a market where taking risks is discouraged, and they can afford to wait before committing to a project. In order to reduce risk, the statement said, Studio Camellia attended Tokyo Game Show, DICE, and other industry events to meet with partners about raising funds, but none of them resulted in a contract. We spared no effort and tried to hold on as long as we could, the developer said. This is part of the harsh reality of the industry. We are creatives, but we need funding to keep creating. Sometimes even having a promised game concept with proven market interest and a strong team is not enough. Many say that every release game is a miracle, and that couldn't be more true. Alzura is now on an indefinite pause as the studio undergoes a liquidation process that requires various legal procedures that will run for some time. There's a slim chance that the third party might one day step in and offer to take over the project. If that happens, the game would inevitably take a different direction than what was presented during the campaign, but hopefully for the better, the studio said. So, very disappointing for anyone who pledged that. I watched the trailer, the pre-production demo, as it were, and it actually looks like a lot of fun. I can see why people were excited and wanted to support this, but, like they said, right now, very tough to get games made generally. We're probably headed for a recession or some economic strife, and all these investors are a little bit tighter with their wallets, not wanting to take risks in any way. So, very disappointing. Another example of a disappointing Kickstarter. These are pretty common in the gaming industry, honestly, and I wonder if this will have a chilling effect on future, people donating to Kickstarters. I somewhat doubt it, because there's already been so many examples of them not meeting their goals, but this is just yet another one. So, what do you think about this? Have you donated? Were you looking forward to this? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm Brian. I'm a fake nerd, but this has been Surreal News. Make sure you subscribe to all of our channels, and we'll see you in the next one.